Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. It really means a lot. Today isn't just about a diploma presentation, it's the story of a journey of ideas, of land, and of learning how to live a little lighter on this earth. Thank you. Somebody's recording. Thank you very much. I don't think I'm going to be going through all 45 minutes. So you'll have more time to ask me questions towards the end rather than me bore you with slides and what have you. So anyway, that's what we have for the rest of the session. About me, for those of you all who don't know me, I have a background in technology consulting and some entrepreneurship, set up a few companies over the years, worked all around the world. And well, my real passion in life is growing bonsais. So I have Mă-Kè Bonsai, and now it seems to be permaculture. So let's see what I can do with permaculture. Okay, so before the diploma, we lived in kind of London, and as you can see, some years it was pretty cold out there. And well, we were trying to head out to the warmer parts of the world. London could be quite surprising at times. This was one of the years where we had the beast from the east, we used to call it, because it really get frozen out there. One of the main reasons of moving out was so that I could grow my bonsais in a more comfortable place. Here I've got snow on my trees, and they're kind of getting a little bit frozen, and you can see that they're starting to bud and flower, and then we get blasted by snow. So that was one of the reasons why we had to disappear to the warmer parts of the world. And this is well what it looked like in the summertime. It was lovely, and I really enjoyed it when the summer was there. And yeah, the collection kind of grew. It grew well. It took over the whole garden of mine, and in fact, it took over my neighbor's garden too, because the collection just grew and grew and grew. As you can see, well, I'm now entering the neighbor's garden. And so my collection kind of grew to a stage where I had to look for something bigger. So that's why we are now in Vila Pinheiro. Unfortunately, we landed up with Brexit, so I couldn't move my trees. Now that's the joke of it all. But anyway. So this is a little bit of a run through before we actually start off with me yakking on for the next few minutes. This is a 3-minute video. It's an executive summary. So rather than bore you with another slide, I thought I'd make a quick video so you can. I'm Mark, and this is the story of Vila Pinheiro. Our story begins with a dream to live simply, self-sufficiently, and in harmony with the land. For years, my wife and I imagined a life beyond the city, rooted in nature and guided by care for earth, people, and the future. Portugal called to us for its Mediterranean climate, its rich traditions of agroforestry, and its welcoming spirit. We searched for years, and when our children completed university, the time was right. We found Vila Pinheiro, a 1-hectare valley site in Landal, central Portugal. Once a holiday home, it became the canvas for our regenerative vision. Our vision was clear. Vila Pinheiro would become a sustainable homestead, a living classroom, and a regenerative hub, a place where tradition meets innovation, where permaculture principles, Vrikshayurveda, and the Mă-Kè Bonsai Way could come together in practice. The land itself taught us. A seasonal stream runs through the valley, offering abundance for 9 months of the year. The soils, rich but tired, needed rebuilding. Surrounding forests brought both risks of fire and gifts of biodiversity. We learned to listen to patterns of wind, water, and sun, and let them shape our designs. At Vila Pinheiro, each design became part of a larger whole. We designed for water self-sufficiency. We worked toward food self-sufficiency, cultivating orchards, kitchen gardens, and guilds of trees, shrubs, herbs, and animals. We created an Ayurvedic food forest, blending ancient Indian plant wisdom with Mediterranean ecosystems. Our silviculture design regenerates woodland, weaving sacred geometry with coppicing and companion planting. Animals such as goats, chickens, and ducks will join as partners to regenerate soil and biodiversity through rotational grazing. Each project is connected, feeding into the next, forming a living ecosystem. This is not just about land, it is about people, about students learning to grow bonsai sustainably, about neighbors joining in food harvests, about creating a hub where ancient wisdom and modern design come together. Vila Pinheiro is as much about community as it is about ecology. We face challenges, financial constraints, fire risks, degraded soils, and the sheer scale of regenerating a monoculture landscape. But permaculture teaches patience, humility, and presence. Each obstacle became a lesson, each design cycle an opportunity to adapt, refine, and grow. Today, Vila Pinheiro is more than a homestead. It is a seedbed of ideas. Where the future is nurtured, it is our story, our classroom, and our contribution to the future.
Okay. Well, so that's a quick rundown of what you're going to be seeing. So why the diploma? Well, one of the things that we're trying to grow things in this biggish garden of mine. By the way, the London property that we had was nice, but it was only 400 square meters, including when I had the garden from next door. And despite that, I managed to get 2,000 odd bonsai into it. So I was looking for something bigger, and then when I came to Portugal, well, we managed to. There were plenty of options. So when we decided on Vila Pinheiro, which we finally found, it straight away dawned on me that I needed to learn how to grow things properly. I'm not really a farmer, but I needed to learn how to be a farmer without, well, upsetting my ground and spending loads of money trying to get through there. Um, so the PDC, to when I started to learn how to grow things, I looked for where I could do a short course on farming. I ended up finding this permaculture thing, and I did the PDC, and that kind of confirmed to me that this is the right way to go ahead. And then I kind of realized that, well, I needed to do a little bit more about the permaculture and learn actually how to do things rather than theoretically. But anyway, so that's why I started to do the diploma. So I have set up a website, which most of you all have already been through, but just in case you haven't, it's at the Diploma Journey in Vila Pinheiro, and you can see all my designs and what have you out there, including all the annexures and uh, every other thing that I've done through this diploma. I've used quite a few frameworks in throughout these designs. Some of them are the original ones. Some of them I've modified. A couple of them I've had to create so that I could do the task that I wanted to do. Well, I'll talk a little bit more about them as I go through the course of the presentation. My clients throughout these designs were basically my family, my bonsai students and clients. I had a few corporate clients hiding in the background who would use them for team building and what have you. So that's really who they were, but individual designs kind of will tell you about them as we go through. Oh, that's my wifey collecting oranges in the background. So the 10 designs that we went through were broken up into 4 major domains that the permaculture world seems to have. These domains, by the way, are my own set of domains rather than the standard sets that were there, because I thought they were a little bit irrelevant to me. But anyway, so the first theme was the philosophy, the whole underlying reason and what guided me into doing all of these little designs. We had number the growing bonsai sustainably, the workshop number 2 was part of that which I did, and that kind of represents theme 1 in this. I will go through the 4 themes and choose one of the designs for each of these themes. And then towards the end, we'll go through the rest of the designs that we haven't covered. And then I'll open up for questionings. So in design 2, the basic aim was to make the courses that I'm already teaching. I teach a whole lot of bonsai courses from beginners levels all the way to the master levels, but they had nothing to do with sustainability into them. So I had to build sustainability and a regenerative approach to bonsais, because bonsais, even though they're small little things, when they're put together, they can be quite unsustainable in the way they are growing. Pots come from Japan, the soil comes from China, the wire comes from some other part of the world, and it goes on and on and on. So all of these things had to be trained into the new set of courses, which, by the way, are going to go online soon. So there are 40 odd modules that are being converted from straightforward design, from straightforward traditional bonsai into a more sustainable approach. So it's a bit heavy duty work, but it'll happen. So the framework I used was GADI, because it allowed me to grow, do things sensibly for this particular project. The focus was basically to, get out and educate a wider audience in the world of bonsai, and how to grow bonsais more sustainably and how to grow bonsais more sensitively, which for the 30 odd years that I've been growing before was, not as sensible as it could have been. So the key areas was to design my own substrates, design my own fertilizers, and to build up on the water efficiency of how to water bonsais, because bonsais can be really, really wasteful when you come to watering bonsais, especially the traditional way of watering bonsais, which, by the way, I have 200 odd videos on my website, the bonsai website, if you really want to see how to grow bonsais. Some of the tools that we used during for the design was SWOC, an input-output analysis, pattern languages, Gantt charts, and some feedback loops, which, everything about permaculture is cyclical in nature, which I didn't quite understand initially when I started. And I'm traditionally a designer, so computer designer, and designed large-scale architectural systems for computer systems, e-business systems. So the traditional way was always doing things, serially, one after the other and in a line, and I started here and I ended here, and I gave the design and handed it over to the next generation. But when you're growing things, it goes round and round and round in circles, and that's what I kind of learned primarily from these little designs. Mă-Kè Bonsai Way, which is the philosophy of how I grew bonsais, kind of was the underpinning of all of these the bonsai sessions. The impact, it created workshops which have been going on in London, and I go to London every couple of months to do these workshops. I run theoretically a workshop every week from my Vila Pinheiro, though there are not very many takers. In London, the workshops are usually sold out. I guess the audience in Portugal is still to be created, like I created them in the UK. So we'll see how that goes. That is design number 2. We'll come back to design number 1 and the rest of them later on in the session. So you can ask me questions about them as we go. Theme number 2 is about infrastructure, water, energy, and the sites. And the one that I've chosen for this is energy self-sufficiency. The aim being, to build up hydrological resilience in Mediterranean climate, because it can get quite dry in Vila Pinheiro. For 8 to 9 months of the year, I've got no shortage of water. And then for 3 months, I have less than 3 millimeters of rain, so it can be quite daunting. So the primary goal was to try and make sure that I had enough water throughout the year, and that for the 3 months I didn't rely on water from the municipality, which by the way can be pretty expensive out here. I had a leak inside there, and I suddenly ended up with a 300 euro bill from the council, and yeah, it was a bit shocking. I used a cheap framework out here to help with the hydrological mapping of the things. You'll find them in the detailed version of the online. The focus here was rainwater harvesting, and we're building up a grey water system where the kitchen waste will eventually get collected and fed into the gardening system also. But for now, it's really about rainwater harvesting, which we have. Well, I got 4 of these IBCs, and we're building swales along at the lower part of the grounds to help trap the water, because we are on a slope. So these swales help me retain the water and make the ground more spongy and make the ground retain water. On the east side of the land, water runs off very fast, but on the west side where the forests are, the water is retained and stays quite long. In fact, on the west side, I have subterranean water that feeds throughout the year, and I have a little spring towards just above the stream that continuously feeds the stream actually. But yeah, so somehow I have to work that into the system too. Some of the key action taken was to, well, first of all, trap or design the water flow systems within the area, map out the water for the whole area, and it turned out to be that we have a hell of a lot of area because of the valley that we are in, and all the water seems to eventually flow right through our little acreage. I have, by the way, 1 hectare of land, just over 1 hectare. Most of it is 6,000 square meters of it is actually a forested area, so which is cool. So the tools that we used, contours to map the flow of water and to decide where the swales would be, a catchment analysis so that I could actually work out where I could store water. In the water design, there are 2 major storage areas that we will be having. One is the pond towards the bottom of the valley, and the other one is by the main entrance where the water comes down the hill from the roadside above, and it's collected in a pond at the top of the hill, which hasn't been made as yet, but is part of the design that will happen. Some of the things that we used was, well, basically systemic design to link the household use to the landscape. The bath and the kitchen tend to use a lot of water, and at the moment it all just goes into the septic tank area, which is going to be change because it's the drains that are at the top of the house are easy to manage and break them out, so that you can break them from the grey water and the soil water can be separated very easily in the drains. The roof supplies the IBCs, and we have a little 1 IBC close to the house. I was going to put all 4 IBCs close to the house, but the problem with that was that the raised area would have an additional another 4 tons of it, and I was not so sure that the reinforced area could take that load. So I moved them out closer to the greenhouse, which is by far the highest part of the property. There is a 10-meter difference between the top of the valley and the bottom of the valley, 141 meters to 131 meters above sea level. So eventually gravity flow will feed from the IBCs to the garden sector. We also have currently, what is it called? Where the water is fed through little black pipes to the garden. Irrigation system, sorry, I'm short of words sometimes. And well, the main impact is that it's reducing the amount of water. We were doing something like, what is it? 60 to 70 kiloliters initially, which is a serious amount of water. We never kind of use that water even in the UK with all the 2,000 odd trees. But here we went a little bonkers. But now we've managed to get it down to the last month's bill came down to about 5 kiloliters, which we were kind of pleasantly surprised, because the way they've been charging us, they actually gave us a credit, because suddenly the averages went a little haywire. So that seems to help and work. Okay, so now we go on to theme 3, which is about food and food forests, which by far was an interesting exercise. So I'll talk about the Ayurvedic food forest, mainly because it's, I think, a little bit unique. The food forests themselves are nothing new. They've been around for a while. Medical people have grown lots of medicinal food forests, which is, again, very helpful. I've chosen the Ayurvedic food forest because that's the kind of thing I grew up with. I know as a child I had asthma, and that used to be a real headache for me. I used to box once upon a time, and the Ayurvedic medicines helped me deal with this asthma of mine, and now I'm more or less cured of it. Occasionally, I have problems with it during perhaps some when there is too much pollen in the air, but generally it's been sorted. Anyway, back to the Ayurvedic food forest. It was basically to make sure that the stuff that we're growing at Vila Pinheiro was healthy food rather than food for the sake of food. And as it turned out, there were plenty of species of trees, 30 odd species, native species, not native, well, perhaps native and naturalized, that could be used in the Ayurvedic plane itself. But the kitchen garden, or the kitchen Ayurvedic garden, is where we started first of all. And we grow simple things like tomatoes and cucumbers and peas. All of them have Ayurvedic value. All of them have great ways of helping you. Onions and ginger and lemons and all the fruits that we have. Every one of them has an Ayurvedic use. In other words, if you they help you in the medicinal level if you can manage control the way you utilize them. The framework, well, I use Gosadam and Vrikshayurveda. Lots of you will be aware of Ayurveda, but Vrikshayurveda Ayurveda basically is the science of life. Vrikshayurveda is the science of growing plants. It's a very old tradition of the Indian system, and it's been there for, well, millennia. So I thought I'll use some of that in helping me grow my trees, as I was doing basically an Ayurvedic food farm. So that kind of fell into it very easily. There's lots of literature that I put up as part of the annexures online, if you are interested in chasing down some of these Ayurvedic needs. But the focus was, of course, on building up a healthy garden in the Mediterranean ecology, which can be interesting. But in general, our little valley has many little ecosystems because of the way it's structured. So that it was kind of easy to do that. Key actions. Layered polycultures, which haven't happened as yet. The DAFOR helped me identify all the plants that we have. The what I don't have, what I need to get. The guild mapping, well, helps me with protecting the species that I'm growing naturally. And the dosas, well, it's a dosa-based planting. Dosa really is about understanding your own chi, your own body's requirements. There is a little addendum or a little annexure online if you want to have a look at it. I'm not planning on doing an Ayurvedic research into this. I'm not much of an I'm not really an Ayurvedic myself. Uh, but the internet is full of it if you want to see. And well, it was innovative in the sense that I use Vrikshayurveda with permaculture, which I thought was pretty cool. Um, well, and of course, the main impact is food as medicine, but also I'm now learning to create food sustainably. And while the aim in the food design, which I'll cover again later on, was to get fully sustainable on it, which amounted to about a kilo of vegetables and fruit every day, about 365 kilos a year. I'm nowhere near that, but despite that, we managed to get about 300 odd kilos of fruits, which are the main stay because the little orchard that we have was already there, and it had a variety of fruits, and they usually are available all through the year. Including in this early spring and late winter, where you have the oranges and lemons are there all through the year. So technically, all through the year we had something or the other, and now with being able to plant in the vegetable plots twice a year for now, maybe even 3 times a year later on. I'm sure that we can do having vegetables of all some sort or the other all through the year. Apart from which, we are now being able to, I'll talk about that in the food sustainability, to create others, to create what's it called, food, and store them in the kitchen areas, or rather in the storage area downstairs. Okay, theme number 4, which is the final theme, which is about animal integration. One of the things I was really, really keen on was getting, chickens and ducks. In India, I saw a big thing supported by the government. They call integrated farming systems. And they use animals, fishes, and agriculture all in one system to make it a fully sustainable system. And I've kind of tried to adapt that in this. And so in fact, in India, it is a mission where the government is now moving away from the Western way of growing plants into more traditional ways of growing plants, and still support a 1.4 billion population. So it's if they can do it, why the hell not me? So let's see. I mean, I'm not sure they are doing it at the moment, or they even come anywhere near doing it, but they're working towards that. Of course, there's a lot of skepticism about it, but nevertheless. Here we go. So the regenerative animals ecosystem. Well, the aim is to ethically farm animals. While we're not looking to farm animals for protein, it's basically looking to farm animals for fertilizers and eggs, which are becoming seriously, crazily expensive. So the system that I kind of used for that was Grazer, which is something that I've developed myself. I'll talk a little bit more about it later on. The focus is about using animals with Ayurvedic care, not homeopathic, not allopathic, but Ayurvedic, and silvopasture to manage how the native plants and fauna are being used. And in the silver pasture, you'll see that I mentioned something called montada, which is the traditional way of looking after animals in the Portuguese and in the Spanish way of doing things. So the key or the USPs of this was really about rotational grazing, aquaponics, compost systems. At the moment, we only have the compost systems and nothing else that has been built up for the regenerative system. It's meant to be a closed loop system. And the inputs, well, in many cases, are going to be the outputs too. So all the inputs and outputs will come from within the state or the homestead, and that's the main focus of this. Tools are little health and soil monitoring, citizen science. What the hell is that? I don't know where I got that phrase from. It's got to do with not citizen science, but agricultural science or forest science, and Brix meters. Brix meters is a little device that we use to check out the sweetness of the fodder, basically. What's good part about this, or the innovative part of this, is using Ayurveda to help with the animal care, and regenerative silver pasture along with aquaponics, which even though is not yet there, it's being created at the moment. It'll require a little bit of heavy equipment and building around that, but it'll happen. It's not meant to happen for a while, but it will happen. The impact, I'm hopeful, the biodiversity will increase. I already have quite a few amounts of trees out here, but 30 of those trees out of the 150 trees are just pines, and that has to change. So the silviculture is going to deal with that part of it and remove this monoculture, that forest that I have, and make it more multicultural in that sense. So it, as with everything, all my plans are interlinked one with the other. So sometimes it's difficult to actually see how they separate from each other, but they do. And for me to make this holistic system work, I had to break them out anyway, which helped from the diploma perspective. And answers, I'm going to deal with the other ones, other designs that I haven't done. So quickly, design one was the Mă-Kè Bonsai Way, which is recreating the philosophy of Mă-Kè Bonsai, making it more sustainable, regenerative, and holistic. But what this helped me do was actually create a system that I could put out onto the web. So it's a big part of the new courses that I am teaching, and it's really, really helpful. And design number one, I started off with design using the web design, which, by the way, is the design web, which I think if anybody is starting in the world of permaculture, you should keep away from, because it's quite convoluted and can be quite disheartening to start with. Anyway, with Tom's help, I managed to get through it, and it was quite eye-opening. Design number two, I've talked about in the growing sustainable bonsai, the actual course workshop, and which was the template workshop that I used to help get out the workshop, and they formed that formed the template for the rest of the 40 workshop, rest of the 40 modules that are being considered. It's on makebonsai.com if you guys want to have a look at it. Vila Pinheiro 3, well, this was the master plan for Vila Pinheiro, and it helped bring all of my vision of Vila Pinheiro into thing. I started the diploma on July 4th, but I hadn't actually moved into Portugal at that time. We only moved into Portugal on 21st of July. But I came down specifically to go to the initial session with Tom at his home, and his his setup, which is very interesting. He's got lots of olive trees in his gardens and things that he has there, which helped me get together what I wanted to do with Vila Pinheiro. So even though I hadn't actually worked out the details of it, I already knew in the broad way what I wanted to do. And design number 3 helped me put this on paper, helped me put it on to articulate it into ways that I could get out to the world. I used the Go Sadimet to help me deal with that. And of course, then we went through the entire set of tools to make this happen. The end result or the impact was that I had a blueprint to help me build up the rest of things. Design number 4, energy self-sufficiency. Well, this was supposed to be my prem design, but as the way things worked out, it didn't quite happen the way I wanted to do it. But part of it was making sure that we dealt with things energy-wise much more efficiently. So starting off with simple things like changing all the bulbs to energy-efficient bulbs, an expensive start off, but the bills, well, fell from significantly, close to about 30% from that, from over 120 in the first month down to less than 90 or 80 is what we're being charged now. So yeah, it helped a bit. Eventually, with the solar panels and the wind system, wind turbines, which most probably is going to be the primary source of our sustainable energy, because the wind turbines are much cheaper, easier to maintain, easier to manage, they need a lot of maintenance. And they generate more electricity in the long run because the valley has a lot of wind going right through it and much faster than what I need for most of the year. Anyway, between the solar panels and the wind energy, we should be able to be totally self-sufficient in energy and selling over 60% of our energy to the network. So which will be quite something when that gets happening. But the main reason why it didn't complete was the energy companies want us to take on a 25-year deal. I don't think I've got 25 years left. And I didn't like the idea that they insisted that we have a long-term loan with them. I wanted to buy it outright, and that's not what they were willing to do. So went to 3 companies, and still all of them had the same objection. Anyway, let's move on with design number 5, water self-sufficiency, already talked about. Design number 6, food self-sufficiency. As I was saying, here we have reached the stage where we are able to produce most of the food that we want. And at the moment, we're only using a very, 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 very small acreage of land. Not even a quarter of an acre is being used to produce this food. Eventually, there'll be something like about an acre fully developed, which at the moment is being turned it's growing green fodder, which will be in October churned back again or cut back again and then redone, so that by February we should be having the full acreage of vegetable farms or vegetable plots in full swing. The focus is, of course, a closed loop system where the fertilizer is provided by the plants, the food is provided by the plants, and everything is being cycled within the thing. And the Go Bradimet, which is a concoction of one of those Bradimet systems that I've used inside as the main framework. The tools I've used Paste and Swak and a whole lot of other ones. The main thing, of course, was fusing permaculture and Vrikshayurveda, the traditional way of growing things. Vrikshayurveda uses a closed loop system, and this was long, long ago. Mainly, whatever they got from the animals that are put back into the system. You'll read it in the annexes if you really want to. And of course, reduced impact on food from outside, which also meant that we didn't have to be driving less outwards outside, wasting less fossil fuel and all the rest that's happening. Design number 7, the Ayurvedic food forest I've talked about. 8, regenerative silviculture. This I found an interesting thing because I couldn't really find any framework to use in this. So I built up Code Remit, which is part of a forestry framework that I use. But trying to make it into a permaculture framework was an interesting exercise because when I made it, the first thing I was reminded was, does this actually fall within that thing? So I had to go away and find out what exactly makes a permaculture framework. I've written a bit about it. You'll find it in the annexes. The focus is about a regenerative tree system for fodder, for feeding the animals, for creating fuel, for creating the biodiversity, for creating my energy, and all the things. I have part of the heating in the house is all of it is wood fire. Upstairs and downstairs, I have a pellet burner, which we will eventually make the pellets ourselves from all the green material and the brown material or waste material that we produce from the forest, which at the moment is happening, but I don't have a pelletizer, but we'll get one of those things sooner or later. The impact I'm hoping would be a much bigger biodiversity, which already seems to be happening, by the way. I'm getting wild boar into my compound, which I never had before. They're a bit of a nuisance, but yeah, so I have to figure out how to deal with them. The innovation, of course, was what I thought innovative anyway, was the montados, but the montados have been going on for centuries in Portugal and Spain. Montado, by the way, is a way of silver pasture that has been used in, I think, in the Mediterranean region for quite some time. I just use Mă-Kè Bonsai's way of managing it a little bit more. Adaptive management basically was the key to this, which will help make sure that the management style keeps changing or adapting with the forest as it grows, because that is the key for making sure that you have a well-rounded forest, which is going to support the goats and the animals and ducks and fish or whatever else kind of thing. So that's number 8. Number 9 is the regenerative animal system, which I've talked about. Number 10, the action learning pathway, which I actually started on July 4th with Tom, along with it helped me glue all of my design schemes into one big holistic system, because the crux of permaculture and sustainability and regenerativeness is a closed loop system. Things that from one end, the inputs are the outputs kind of thing, and the principles that we go along with. So basically, the action learning helped me put all of this together. Most of the diagrams, by the way, I've created myself. I've used a lot of vectors from vector stocks, and then amended all of them or changed all of them to create this. The main tool that I use for this is Adobe, for making the videos and making the Photoshops and making the Adobe Illustrator that you see on my designs. The Grazer framework, which I've actually designed for the animal system, is listed out in the annexures if you really want to just have a deep thing. But this is one of the designs that one of the frameworks that I thought was essential in making the closed loop system work. The Go Dream It was the other one that was there for the silviculture, which is a big part of of my forest, of my homestead, because I got 6,000 square meters of it under forest area. So that's really all there is to it. So what that really is all there is to design 9. So what have I really learned from this? Tom, by the way, how far am I in the time?
About 15 minutes left on your schedule.
Okay, cool. So what I learned is that soil, water, animals, and plants are all one part of the system. They're not to be treated. They can't be treated separately. They're all just one living systems. And of course, you have to have a lot of patience and humility. For somebody who's worked in the technology and computer sections for all his life, patience was a big challenge. Anyway, bonsais did teach me a lot of it, but I have to have a little bit more patience out here because everything is not a 5-minute plan, but a 5-year plan to get anything done. And of course, I'm in Portugal, where things take a little longer for anything to happen. And of course, it gave me a little bit more confidence in my designing. So, Ayurveda and bonsai, of course, played a big focus on how I moved things through. Mindfulness, everything was about looking on things consciously. And of course, I had this little Venn diagram that helped me isolate things as I went along and made me think individually and at the same time think a holistic approach. But of course, all of it in a long-term plan. Okay, so the vision ultimately is to have a self-sufficient regenerative home, growing with nature, rooted in tradition and the wisdom, strengthened by technology and resilience for the long term. Mă-Kè Bonsai was a big part of how everything that influenced me in helping with this design. And what's going to happen as we go along is the online academy is going to come on. It's going to be hopefully much bigger than anything that I've been doing. The courses and workshops are already running. The next steps, well, implementation. Hopefully we can integrate some of this Ayurveda and well, in the zone 00 and discover myself a little bit more through shamanism and whatever other ways that are available. And collaborate with people around me, build up this community of my neighbors. At the moment, my wife takes out all our spare food, which we tend to have a lot, growing fruits and vegetables, to the groups that she goes out to. And they seem to be quite interested in the stuff that fresh vegetables and fruits coming from our little plot. Well, the acknowledgement. This is supposed to be the last slide, but anyway, I'm going to talk later on. But yes, there is everybody from Tom Henfrey to Carla, who's also on watching. Chris Evans and Thomas were not able to make it. The diploma guilds that I've been working with in many ways through Carla and Steve. And of course, a whole lot of permaculture authors. My wife and kids who are also hiding in this retinue of people watching me. And there's a big thank you. And open to question and answers. I may have overshot a bit, but hopefully not. Right. Oh.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's great to have this taste of the way that your portfolio grows through these cycles and layers of integration and complexity, both physical, the way you start with the productive systems that become linked through the silviculture and the animal husbandry, which are connected everything materially, but also conceptually, as you've deepened your exploration of the links and synergies among permaculture, Mă-Kè Bonsai Way, and Ayurveda. And even technically, as towards the end, you're pushing the boundaries so far, you're having to invent your own design frameworks, having become competent in those, but familiar in permaculture, able to create new bespoke frameworks like Go Dream It and Grazer to fulfill the particular demands of these later designs. And it's a fantastic body of work through the designs and the supplementary material that you've gathered, and very worth a while of digging in deeper for anybody who wants to know more. A fantastic intellectual resource in terms of sharing so much material online, and a great physical resource in terms of the place you're developing, the space, and all you might share there with the permaculture and bonsai communities.
All of these things are already on the permaculture bonsai things, along with the assessments, by the way. I didn't put the assessments on my website, but they're on the permaculture website. So if you really want to have a look at them, and you will notice that, well, they've all had quite a few iterations to get to where they are. Anyway, so let's open to the floor.
Yeah, I'm going to invite the members of the peer group to take first turn with questions, and maybe go George first, then Anna, and then Steve. Before doing that, I wonder, Mark, if we could stop your screen share just so we can see all the faces while we're in the questions.
Stop share.
And also, I did set up a recording, but I've realised when I go off into a breakout with the peer group, you'll lose the Q&A. So you may wish to start your own recording at some point, and we can swap over then.
Okay.
So George, are you ready to ask the first question?
So I'll go on. Thank you, Tom. Nice to meeting you, Mark. It was
nice to meet you too. I see that you have quite a permaculture setup yourself.
Thank you, but it was amazing to listen to you and seeing the images and feeling the heart behind all those ideas that I read over these days. So congratulations, first of all, for your diploma and your diploma work. It was amazing to dive into all the detail you shared. So what I would like to ask is, so firstly, how was it for you? So this life-changing event to pass from a linear kind of work or mindset into even going through all these design frameworks and plasmating them according to your needs. So
well, for me, that I think was the most difficult part, to think like an engineer, to think like a computer scientist, and then come into the world of nature, and being driven into the cyclical nature of things. Everything in the world is cyclical. And unfortunately, the way we've been taught in traditional methods of teaching is everything is linear. You have to break things out, and you have to make it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Eventually, you forget what the hell you started, and you were so specialized that you are lost in your little niche. And with me, I was lucky that I had so many iterations in my workspace that I had lots of little niches. But at the end of the day, you forget that you're a full being, and that you need to be connected to everything around you. You cannot just be one thing at a time. And so that for me was the most difficult part. I don't think I'm anywhere near where I should be, but that's a journey.
May I steal one question?
Please.
So I just wanted to ask you, what are your more simple and more immediate next steps after all this amount of information, all this big effort you made during these 2 years?
You know something? That's something that even the senior tutor kind of reminded me. I have to do small projects, and I've already done 2 small projects. One of them is actually building this little chicken house. It's 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 a small little thing, but it is really. I've used the same principles that I use for these larger projects in building this little chicken coop, which is kind of amazing because I see things differently now. So yeah, that's basically it's lots of little things that are happening around this thing. And there's 10 big projects are already 15 or 16 faffing around, but we shall see. They're not ending. They're not going to stop. They're going to be coming up on the website because that's just the way that we have to do things. And it's at the end of the day, there's so much of work to do. It's going to happen.
Thank you, Mark. I pass on to Tom again or to Anna.
Yeah, Anna is
Thank you.
next up. If you're ready.
Yes, thank you, Mark. And yes, also congratulations on the amazing write-up. I was really astonished by your clarity and in your designs. And I got curious a little bit in line with George's the second question. Having learned and used all these tools and having come up with some for yourself as well, is there one that has become your tool, something that you think as a designer today, you think you'll be using in your day-to-day life or for these shorter projects that you are planning to do? And I'm also a little bit curious, about any like next design you really want to write and implement, and which tool would you use for yourself as a designer and also maybe for clients if you're thinking of working with other people.
So one of the things, having worked in so many industries, from hotels to computers to bonsais and things like that, is that there is no one tool that is going to be the be all and end all of anything, which is why I went away and kind of designed the other tool, because I felt that the task that I was doing needed something different, right? So for me, there is no one solution. You get into what the problem is and the solution will come, even if it's making your own damn tool. So I wouldn't worry about what my favorite tool is. I don't really have one. Or what your favorite tool is, because so as you become, and I'm not talking from a permaculture perspective because I'm too young in that world, but I have 67 years of everything else to deal with, so I can lecture you on that. It'll come to you. It's nothing to be worried. There is no one magic solution to this. Just remember, it's cyclical. So you start off with that small little thing and you go around and you go around and you go around and you go around. Eventually you may just kick out the initial tool that you started with. And as has happened to me a lot of times.
Thank you. So I take that on as advice for people who are still on the diploma journey as myself. Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you, Anna. You got a question, Steve?
Oh, he always has a lot of questions.
So, Mark.
Hey, yeah.
Congratulations, Mark. Well done. You made it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, a lot to do with you, because you kept pushing me to make the bloody design smaller. I'm afraid I really didn't get very far with that, but I was just printing them out, and I don't know why I printed them out, but this is what happened.
You know? Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, I wasted so much paper on this just because I started printing it out, and that it doesn't even fit in a blooming A4 folder here. So don't, for God's sake, try and read it, because it's not going to get you anywhere in life. Design your own damn tools.
Okay, so however.
Thank you, Steve.
So yeah, I did have a couple of pages of questions, not criticisms though, not criticisms. But yeah, reading through the portfolio, I was amazed. It was absolutely beautiful, phenomenal level of output, beautiful, meticulous and fascinating. Love the graphics as well. I focused mainly on Design 3, Sustainable Homestead, Animal Husbandry 9 and Action Learning Plan. in your presentation, you did make me chuckle. We had, I think we had a couple of discussions on a reluctance to get engaged in the design web because of its cyclical way rather than linear for us old retired engineers.
Yeah.
However, your action learning plan, you used the design web amazingly well, I thought, and it really showed huge progress from the beginning on to where you are now.
Oh, that's got a lot to do with Tom pushing me through this thing bit by bit by bit.
I'm sure. But also though, a standard question people ask, especially when we're still on the journey, is advice on how to, when people get bogged down. And the way that you've sort of shot through this process, I guess it seems as though you don't get bogged down.
Oh, no, I do a lot.
So one of my questions, it's got two parts really. One of them was just, we were both part of the forums with the amazing Carla Moss, who's here somewhere. Hi, Carla. And we created our own little one in the background, and Ishka was there as well, and a couple of other faces maybe. Hi, Ishka. Yeah, so the forums, I wondered what you felt the benefits of being in those were, especially if we're talking to people who are still on the journey. And the other question that I wanted to ask you was just a people care question. You've done a lot of the theory here, and I know that you've been busy doing some of the implementation. But the implementation, I've got similar land to you, and the implementation is a lot of work. And without being rude, neither of us are getting any younger. So I was wondering, from a people care point of view, whether you had considered volunteers.
Okay, so what is the first part of the question?
What did you get from the forums?
The forums, they were essential, absolutely essential. For me, every time I would get bogged down, and it happened often. Believe me, there were times when the primary reason for me to do this diploma was to get myself a blueprint from which I could work. So doing the diploma was never the end goal. Getting this piece of paper was never the end goal. The end goal was about making sure that I got a blueprint that I could work with. So a lot of the times the diploma kind of wanted to fall off the way, right? And it is the guilds that actually kept me close together, kept me whole in that sense. Because every time I faltered, I saw that I was not alone in that journey. I saw that everybody else was struggling just as much as I was. And there were times that I said, F it, and my wife was always on it, what the hell are you killing yourself about this for? And it is one of those things, it just happens. And going to the forums and listening to them and having them advise you make breakthroughs because of the forums, because of the guilds. So they are an essential part of it. So anybody who is shy and doesn't want to be on it, get onto it, hide your face. Don't show the video, right? You're anonymous, but talk. For God's sake, talk. It'll get you through anything that there is to get through. Number two, what is the second part of the question?
Saving your knees, getting younger people involved.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you won't believe it. It is. Have you tried to dig a bloody bed out here? I mean, that soil, this beautiful red soil that I have, it's clay, literally clay. And when it is wet, you can't do anything with it, can't budge it. When it's dry, you can't do anything with it. And I've been digging these beds up with pickaxe because I can't get through it in any other way. And you soon find that after 10 minutes, you've had it. After 1 hour, you got to get to do something else. So volunteers are now becoming a very, very, very interesting outlook. And
but maybe that's Design 11.
More than Design 11 is yes, that's exactly what I have to do. And I've cheated in many senses because I've got labor from outside to help me with some of this digging, some of the larger projects that I have had to do, like building the steps, concrete steps down the side, building the swimming pool, all those things required, well, things that I can't do by myself, right? And of course, there's the tractors and the bulldozers to do with all the land and the moving and things. So you can't get away from all of these things. You try and dig that by yourself, you're not going to get anywhere in life, right?
Yes,
So,
you commented on them in erosive spirals where you can't get enough done. You panic. We can all panic about not getting everything done that's on our list, especially when we've got lists of lists. Yeah.
Yeah, and the trouble is that when I started the bonsai thing, as the company itself, it took 5 years before it actually did anything sensible, kind of thing. It took 10 years before it really made a name for itself. And by the time I was 15 years old, I was closing it down. I don't have that kind of time now, right? I can't wait 5 years to think. So the permaculture diploma helped me focus. It took 2 years, despite all of that thing. It took 2 years to build the bloody blueprint. So God really knows how long it's going to take to actually do anything with it. So all you can do is get on with it.
Sure. But just finishing off, I'm really grateful and thankful, honoured that I was part of your peer group, and congratulations also to Tom on his successful first student, and well done, Mark. Brilliant.
Thank you very much. Anybody else got something to say or ask?
Yeah, I think we've got time for one or two more questions before I head off with the peer group. So feel free to raise your hand or just open your mic and speak up. Go ahead, Polydod.
Hiya.
Yeah, if you're able to write your question, Polydod, it sounds like the audio's going to give us challenges. And then meantime, while you're writing, we could hear Joe's question. You're muted, Joe.
Hello, thank you very much, Mark.
Hello, Joe.
Thank you for your sharing. It felt like a very generous sharing of your journey and knowledge. And I know it's a really challenging, it's a massive thing to achieve a diploma in applied permaculture design. Anyone that's been there knows that. So welcome to the club. I think
Thank you.
that have actually done it realise what it takes. So really well done. My question is, I haven't finished writing it, but your bonsai way tenets was I loved what you wrote, and I wondered, is that your own personal philosophy? And the question is, do you weave it into everything you do? It sounds like the bonsais are essential to who you are.
Yes, the bonsai is central to who I am. But the bonsai is and has been a way of life. So the tenets came out of it very naturally in that sense. They were never really articulated in the beginning. They were about 5 or 6 years ago that I actually put down into pen to paper and started articulating them. But they were never, in that sense, in a sustainable kind of world. They were to do with the bonsai world, right? And when I saw them, they kind of fitted so beautifully with the permaculture world that it was as though I had taken things out of the permaculture world. But I had never heard of permaculture till I actually found Vila Pinheiro, and I decided that I had to actually learn how to farm. And so they were in that way a natural fit for each other, kind of thing.
I really loved reading through them. I think that's the bit that stands out for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joe. And before the next question, I'm going to take George, Anna and Steve off to a breakout room for our peer group meeting. I'm fascinated to hear what Carla has to say, and heard you receiving some much deserved praise earlier. So really applauding your contribution to Mark's work and to the diploma community as a whole.
Thanks.
We'll be back with our feedback in about 15 or 20 minutes time, and Mark's here to field more questions in the meantime. Just to remind you, Mark, you'll also lose my recording now. So
Okay,
maybe
I'll
not.
put it on.
Shall I go, Mark? Shall I
Yeah,
speak?
go on. Please do.
Okay. That was really awesome. Thank you so much. I found it really fascinating, and I've loved looking at your portfolio and dipping into the designs. And thanks. I'm so glad that the forum was helpful as well. So I'm really, really glad to hear that. My question was about, and I can't remember which it is, so it's maybe you can just direct me to one of the designs, 8 or 9. It was when you were doing the designing your own framework, and you were talking in the presentation about how you'd thought, well, what makes a permaculture framework as opposed to like a not permaculture framework, but it's a framework. Is there time for you to say a little bit more about that, or is it just easiest for me to go and read it somewhere? And if so, which design?
Well, the simple thing is very simple, that permaculture frameworks in its totality or in its wholeness are closed loop frameworks. They aim to be and begin and end as closed loop framework. That really is the crux of it all. And it took me a little while to actually figure that one out. But there are, of course, a whole lot of things within that. Let me go and bring it up so that I can actually talk about permaculture diploma, and it was, I think in there.
Oh.
Have I lost you?
No, you haven't lost me,
No.
but I just heard
I will talk to you separately on that, Carla.
Okay,
Right?
cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all there online, but really it's from what I remember clearly of that is it is about making sure that it is a closed loop circle.
That's really
It's
helpful.
all iterative. It's all about making sure that if there is a beginning and an end, it is not a permaculture framework.
Yeah. No, that's really helpful to hear that was where you came to. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I heard Polydor just say something, so maybe
Polydor, have you put something into the chat?
No,
Chat.
I didn't. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yes, go on.
Yes, okay. Sorry for my network being very low. Okay, congratulations, Mark, on completing your diploma.
Thank you.
Yeah, what's a great achievement. My name is Polydor Duasoke. I'm a diploma apprentice with the Permaculture Association, Britain. And I'm also a founder of Life for Better Future refugee-led organization working in Kakuma refugee camp, Kenya. We are in Kenya. So I really appreciate your inspiring journey and how you have connected permaculture with Ayurveda and bonsai. My first question was to ask, which of your 10 design did you find the most challenging, and how did you overcome that challenge?
I think for me, the most difficult one in that sense was the silviculture one, which is how to actually deal with this huge forest around the place of mine. And then I was not able to find any kind of framework to deal with the forests as such. Forestry and looking after forests is a relatively new thing. And the USDA had something on it, which they call DREAM. And that's what I borrowed from. It helped me give the words for it. But then I eventually realized that itself was not enough. I had to make sure that it was, that's where it is sitting, Kala. It's with the silviculture design. So that's where I kind of realized that that was the most difficult one in that sense, because I had to go back, and that's when I realized that I had to make up a framework for it to be actually able to tackle that. So the silviculture part has already started in the sense that I've started culling the trees. Hi, Rajiv. I started culling the trees, the pine trees. around the property. But yeah, that's was the most difficult one. Anything else you want to ask?
Yeah, my last one was, I'm an apprentice also. Yeah, the very, I'm just starting my journey on permaculture. So I just give apprentice like me who are just doing their own pathway.
Okay. Well, as I said, if you can join other guilds and if you can talk to other people online, you will find this journey much, much more simpler. Otherwise, you could get a little bit disheartened along the way. And I've lost people along the way in this permaculture journey. So I know that it can take a toll on you. But talking to other people in the group makes a big, big difference. Okay.
Yeah. Do you think that you'll have? Okay.
Go on.
Do you think that you'll? Yeah. Do you think that you'll have maybe some chat group after you finish your permaculture diploma journey?
That is part
you
of
have
what
maybe a chat with us.
That's what's going to happen as part of the permaculture community that I'm setting up. So yes, oh, I can see that going on. Okay, Joe, I'll send you an email to that effect, Polydol.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark.
Joe.
Hi, Mark.
Hello, Joe.
I'm really pleased that I managed to attend and listen to your wonderful work. I dipped into your designs and had a bit of a read beforehand. And I really do like the way you've aligned and woven in your Ayurvedic work, you know, that sort of indigenous Ayurvedic knowledge into your work. I think it's been an angle where you've been able to go quite deep. And it's really lovely to see that in your designs. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
I've lived in some very hot places as well and managing water, so I could relate to your, you know, problems that you've had with managing water. But my question, I had two questions. One was, when you were looking into the water management, what have you on the land, was there a consideration for fire as well in your design for your land?
Yeah, we are in the center of Portugal, or close, and Portugal is prone to fires. And we had just a few days ago, and this is the end of the season out here, a fire right at the top of the hill, hardly 800 meters away from our house. The helicopter was in and things like that. And the first we knew about it was because we saw the helicopter flying over and actually dumping a whole lot of water onto this little forest fire that we have. So yeah, in the design, there for building in the forest. Now building in a fire resilience is been a big thing, because all around our property we've got pathways that separate the forest from us.
Fire break. Yeah.
Fire break. Sorry, my wife reminds me, it's a fire break. The fire breaks are just around us. So on three sides, we are clear altogether. But on the fourth side, we've got a whole pine forest, and that the trees literally leaned into the compound. So if you look at it from the satellite, you can see that we have a thing. Nevertheless, there is a good 15 meters from the house to the forest. So in that sense, we are a little bit protected. Having said that, the fire agency, or the fire, they call them the bombeiros in Portugal, have installed a fire hydrant right in front of a house. So we are lucky in that sense. So we are able to deal with that if required and if needed. Having said that, you don't want to deal with it.
No, that's a good resource. And I'm in Devon, and we don't tend to have to sort of think about fire in our properties in the UK. But, you know, it's something that will happen more and more in the future because we're getting so dry in the summer now. And I had one more, if you don't mind, if we got
no, go on.
Shorter one. So did you find yourself more pulled towards the practical elements of your design or towards the documenting side? And would you have tips? Would you have any little tips for current students who are trying to manage it? I've actually just finished my diploma as well, and I'm doing my presentation next month. Any tips to help current students manage that pull between the practical and the writing up?
Well, you must have, I think it is essential that you have both the practical and the writing up pull. Otherwise, you're going to get drawn one way or the other, and you never end up finishing it, right? And there are two kinds of permaculture students, I think. One that tend to go towards the practical side and not bother about the permaculture side, which is where I was tended to go. But Tom keeps bringing me back, so which is good. And then I had Steve also on that, so that was excellent. But then there's the other one that forget about the practical side altogether and then just go right. And I can write forever. That's the problem. So you have to balance it out, and unfortunately, there is no simple way of doing it. When you get pulled towards one side, take a break and go back to the other side. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and everyone's going to be different, aren't they? I suppose.
I guess so.
With the pressures of life. Well,
Absolutely.
I appreciate I've been able to join in today. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well done. Fantastic.
Rajiv, I see you hiding in the background there. My school friends are hiding, my work friends are hiding in the background. I have my family and friends lurking in the background, all too shy to ask questions. I don't know why. Yeah, they are there. Okay, I think we're waiting for. I just completed my 2 PDCs. I'm just looking through the messages. Wonder if anybody. How are you doing with yours, Ishka?
Hi, Mark. Doing okay, hoping to finish this year as well. Maybe presenting end of
Excellent.
this year or January, depending on people's schedules. But yeah, I've been held up by my current pregnancy.
Oh,
So priorities
congratulations.
changed a little bit, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, still hoping to finish this year. I have one ongoing and then 2 small write-ups coming up, and then that's it. So hoping
Excellent.
yeah, I'll send you an invitation when the time comes.
Thank you. We'll be there.
I was just wondering also actually about when you're with your water storage, I don't know how long your hot periods are, but were avoiding bacteria in the water and avoiding like mosquito larvae in the water, were that important topics for you?
Yeah, having come from India and Africa, that is a big headache for us. But yeah, it's simple enough. All you have to do is cover them with black tarpaulin, and that generally sorts out all your problems for it. When it comes to microbes in the water, then a little bit of chlorine does magic for it. I don't think it affects anything else. Because we got a swimming pool, so these chlorine tablets are great things. Just one, and that clears out every chance of any kind of mosquito larva in the water. As long as you're not drinking it, you should be fine. Even you're drinking it, actually, it's not too bad. But yeah, so because the rain comes into one drum and then is supposedly moved into the other ones. But yeah, it is a distinct possibility. At Steve's place, I saw that he had covered it all with tarpaulin, and that usually does the trick. In fact, lots of on the web, when I look for IBCs, I seem to find more covers than IBCs itself. So they're ready-made out there, so they're great things.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks. And yeah, congratulations. I haven't read through all your designs. I just started opening the tabs and looking through them quickly, but it's really fascinating. I'm looking forward to reading them.
Thank you. Cool. I think I'm waiting for Tom to come back, and then we can call it a day, because my wife said, "Who the hell is going to stay there for 2.5 hours here?" And I'm not. She herself has disappeared into the corner, sitting out there and cheering me from the side. Yeah.
Yes,
Polly,
I have one question. One more question.
go
I
on.
was asking, what was the capacity of your water storage, and what is the cost in your area?
Now, when I started looking for these IBCs, they were a joke. I couldn't find them anywhere. And then all of a sudden, absolutely by accident, I found a whole depot of them, and then literally miles and miles high of these little things. There are in where I live, it's about 40 euros per drum, which is not bad at all, which is actually pretty good. New ones can be as much as 400 euros. So that's something you want to avoid. But yeah, they're not too expensive out here. But I had the delivery was more expensive than the damn drums itself. But yeah. So
Hi, Mark.
hello, Rajiv. How are you doing?
Yeah, nice to hear you this evening, and really impressed that the way you've conducted the program this evening.
Thank you.
I wish I was there next to you, and you have shared a lot of insight. And I'm glad that you've taken a lot of stuff back from India to Portugal and around the world. I can see you have become a professor in the field, and we need to learn a lot out of you. And I was really impressed with what kind of stuff you shared. And I heard you I joined, I think, the program a little late, unfortunately, because of the network. But I'm sure I'll connect with you and learn some more. And we also are trying to do potted plants back home in our little balconies. As you know, we don't have very big homes like you, having acres around. But we have managed to grow some tomatoes, some basil, some coriander, some your mint, and your curry leaves, etc. And it's really, I think, what you've been talking does exist, and it can be implemented anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah,
so
in India, it is a very, very, very big thing. The polyculture is a huge thing in India. You just do a little search, or not polyculture, permaculture is a big, big thing in India. Just do a little search on the web and you'll see. You'll be surprised as to how much work is already done out there.
Yeah, in fact, I got some seeds back from Austria for plants. I bought a live tomato from somebody's garden, and I had it with me for 3 weeks in Europe when I was traveling. When I came back home, after having eaten half of the tomato, maybe more than half the tomato, I managed to take out the seeds and I planted, and I got one full crop.
Wow.
So yeah, it's very amazing to see how even you can bring plants from wherever, or seedlings or whatever, and you plant it anywhere, and you nurture it, and you talk to them every day, and you sun them, and you look at it, and they grow. So Mark, full marks to you, and God bless you. And I think I won't take much time now, because there are other people who may like to ask and share. But please be in touch, and let's have a call together whenever possible. And
Absolutely,
regards to the
Rajiv.
family. Regards to the family.
Thank you. And yeah, the what was I going to say? I'm jealous about your curry powder and your curry leaves. I can't seem to grow them out here, and I've tried and I've tried and I've tried. But yeah, there's a thing. I came back from India. Every time I come back from India, I bring 10 seeds, because that's all you're allowed to get, 10 seeds. And you bring the seeds and you grow them. More often than not, they don't grow. But I got people trees from it. I got what's it called? Eugenia jambulana, jamuns. I got jamuns, yeah, gooseberries, what they call them, which they
Amla.
make amla, the Ayurvedic famous things. So they all grow out here. Just by getting these 10 seeds that you're allowed to, you can grow them, and then often they don't grow, but they do grow. So that's the great part about that.
Now, if I do come to Portugal, maybe whenever, because now
sneak
the
some in for
monsoon
me.
is over, I will bring the seeds for the curry leaves and we'll plant it.
Thank you.
And I shall help you. I shall help you with the seeds for curry leaves, and whatever else you want, let me know. We shall bring those.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rajiv.
Welcome, welcome.
I'm just waiting for Tom so that he can give the final thing, and then we'll close down, because I think everybody is a little tired now. Oh, yeah, they are. I think they're back now.
It's still a few people here.
Yeah, they're all waiting for you, Tom.
Yeah. And the hope Rosalind's still Ros is still there.
Rosalind is still here, and she's
it's not quite her moment yet. So
No.
so we're going to give you a round of feedback, and starting with the general feedback that we emerged from our conversation, and there's a general sense of just really being super impressed with the quality, the breadth, the depth, the detail, the phenomenal amount of work you've done, and the quality of the documentation that you've provided, all of that, to have completed 10 such comprehensive designs, and to integrate them all via a meta design that reflects and communicates the integrated, connected nature of that is just an incredible achievement. Really something to be greatly applauded. Now,
Here.
we also thought one point that could make the quality of your communication of your design work even better is to complement this very text-heavy, in-depth format you're so great at using, with use of pictorial methods, photographs, sketches, images, to summarize and give a way in to people who don't have the appetite all the time or energy to read in such depth. The old saying, a picture says more than 1,000 words.
I agree.
That would be a really nice complement of photos that show you in action, that demonstrate the implementation. And in terms of going forward, what we'd really like to see for you is, first of all, well, in terms of your design practice, encourage you to diversify as well. I mean, the quality of these designs for yourself and your family and Vila Pinheiro is incredible, and it'd be really wonderful to see what you can do in collaboration with others, designing for others. You mentioned your corporate clients. There's a whole wider bonsai community. I know you're looking to embed the project in the local community. So that's one edge as a designer. Good thing. And also in terms of diversifying your design technique, trying some of the more the quicker, more focused, more even superficial outline designs. And so you mentioned you're already doing that by focusing on particular systems, and we then encourage you to also find ways to simplify at times your approach to design, again, to help with the accessibility. Above all, to continue to share, to not only to share your work, and I hope in the future the implementation of Vila Pinheiro over the years and decades will be well documented and reported, but this huge body of skills that you've brought into your diploma, your skills in document layout, graphic design, your technical knowledge, your computing, and so you've given me some great advice on overcoming my fear and suspicion on AI, for example. So you've got a lot to share with the diploma community and the permaculture community as a whole. So encourage you to be bold and generous in doing so. and that could also include the space as well. And I really hope that Vila Pinheiro will open your doors to being a learning resource for the wider community over time as you host and organise things.
Indeed.
So just like to invite the peer group members just one by one to, in case you have any additions to that general feedback, and starting with George.
Yes, well, it just came now to me. I realized, Mark, that so you put up, as Tom just said now, a great work together, which is it is going to be a work in progress for a while because it's quite rich in detail and it's a complex system. And so from one side, one thing that came to my mind and reading your portfolio and now listening to the presentation is also the integration of animals like goats. So which brings also, as you for sure know better than me, like an extra responsibility with dealing with the cycle of life and death, considering these animals. And this is something that for sure will influence you and your family in some way. So from one side is that aspect that I would like to touch, and for sure it came to your mind already. And from the other side, also the intergenerational aspect of your project, because for sure, so I can imagine that you are thinking about your children, that in some way will take care of part of this project, supporting you and going forth in the future. So I think it's a very beautiful thing that they are here present today to witness to your accreditation, and also that they are an integrative part of your project, I believe. So this is a very beautiful thing to design today, thinking about our connection with the past, present, and future. So the past, considering your roots and your cultural and the spiritual background, the present, what you're doing now. So this courage to change your life path or plasmate your life path now towards a certain direction, and the future, because you're doing something that you know it will grow in time and it will involve also your children. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Mark. I just want to say on a more personal note that you got me really interested in bonsai. I had this image of bonsai as something a bit restrictive for a tree, you know, something that a human does just to have it pretty in their living room or something. And it's really nice to see that idea of bringing it in. Of course, I knew it had something to do with the philosophy or meditation, but if you bring in permaculture and a more organic way of doing it, yeah, it really touched me as someone. I'm into the arts and I've meditated for many years of my life. So those things come together in your designs, and I got really interested. And also Ayurveda. I studied a bit of Ayurveda and Sanskrit, so it's really beautiful to see those things coming together in a portfolio, and see, yeah, get to know you a bit, and to know that you are in Portugal. So to have this, also the rest of the peer group and our and the tutor Tom Humphrey being all based in Portugal. And I'd love to learn more. One of my difficulties for my designs is the graphic design aspect. Although I paint, I'm an artist, but when it comes to computers, so I hope somehow we can get a guild. I've been wanting to have a guild of people with different skills that we could help each other in getting our diplomas more yeah, to make it maybe as quick as you've managed to go through yours. That's also quite remarkable. I think I've started 2.5 years ago, and I'm still in the beginnings of my delivery the designs. So yeah, it's been very inspiring. Thank you for all your work, and I hope to continue being in touch and to see your next steps. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, well done again, Mark. That was excellent work. Some of the bits that I really enjoyed reading through was I loved learning about the Montado silver pastoral system. I think partly because the idea of the image of goats and sheep and pigs meandering through the cork oak woodlands, maybe it's because I'm a Sussex and Kent boy, and you know, from the countryside there, where it was the trees were different, but it was a pretty similar look, I guess. I was quite curious about the supervised animals. This wasn't really time for questions, no, but I just remembered that it was in my notes. I was wondering what supervised animals were, but don't tell me now. Yeah, again, with as other people have said, I'd be really fascinated if you would still be wanting to be part of Build or Forum, and we'd all love a graphic design demo.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I just really also wanted to say that I'm very grateful to you for reminding me of all the possibilities. It's easy to get bogged down when you've got a lot of land. And reading through your portfolio gave me loads of ideas, lots of excitement, and renewed my enthusiasm. So thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you to all peer group members. We have one very important piece of formal business to take care of, and I believe, Mark, you have a presentation arranged.
Yeah. You're coming in.
Can they see that?
Yeah, good on.
Okay. I don't know which way to go.
Thank you very much.
After all the hard work.
Thank you. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much.
Well done.
Well done.
Well, Mark. So, right, and yeah, I really look forward to your further contributions to the diploma community in Portugal. It's clear there's demand and interest there from your old friends and new here in Portugal, and to all permaculture as a whole. And I hope our journeys will continue to be closely linked going forward.
Thank you. Well, I think we've exhausted ourselves out here, so we're going to call it a day. Thank you so much, Tom, and I'll speak to you tomorrow or in the next couple of days. Anybody else who wants to chat with me, please do. I'm here all the time. You have my WhatsApp and whatever else. If you don't, then
We'll make a date and come down and see you soon, Mark. But you're less than an hour away, so we'll just drive down and come and knock on your doorstep.
Yeah, and you too, Anna.
Yeah, and from my side, when I come to meet Tom, I come and pay you a visit too.
Absolutely, Josh.
Thank you.
Ishka, you get your baby done first, and then we'll talk.
Any closing words from those who are still in? If Iska or Polydor, do you want to any final words before we close up?
I think I've said it all earlier when you weren't there, unfortunately. But yeah, thanks again, and looking forward to any future contact that might happen, and looking forward to see where you go next. And whenever I come to Portugal, I'll pass a visit.
Yeah.
Thank you, Iska. Polydor, any closing words you'd like to share with Mark?
I don't think he heard us. Ah, okay.
Sorry, Dr. Tom, you wanted me to say something?
Just only if you wish to, if you have any final words to say to Mark before we leave.
Yeah, I don't have much. It's just I'm very delighted for the great work that Mr. Mark has presented, and I'm also still on the journey, so I need your help. I need your insights during this journey. Thank you so
Anytime,
much.
anytime.
Yeah, may I have your WhatsApp? Yeah, you can just include your WhatsApp number, insert your WhatsApp number in the email that you sent to me.
Okay, I will.
Well, congratulations from whoever's on the Samsung SM-S901B. I'm sure that's not your real name, and from Kane as well. I'm sure if Rajiv is still present, and
Yeah, Rajiv was from my hotel career. And we go back 30 years now, even more.
it's your Samsung is your daughter. Congratulations.
I'm sure she is. Hello, Teju. You're hiding behind it. Thank you.
Well, very well done again, Mark. Thanks to everybody for contributing and sharing in this this moment of celebration and transition, and looking forward to us all connecting in the future through our diploma journeys and our connections here in Portugal and elsewhere.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Take
well
care,
done,
guys.
Mark.
Thank you. Well done, Mark.
Enjoy your
Take care.
evenings.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
See you at the next occasion.
See you indeed.
Bye-bye.
Are we done, Tom, as well now? Is that for
Yeah,
now?
that's all. Let's connect soon.
Cool. Okay.
Okay.
Talk to